Hey everyone, so Expo SDK 52 was released. Let's quickly go through it. Today we are announcing the release of Expo SDK 52. SDK 52 includes React Native 76. It comes bundled with React Native 76. So at the point of me recording, React Native 76 is the latest version of React Native. New architecture rollout is happening after years of working. This is fine. So basically what they are saying is from Expo SDK 52, the new architecture will be by default supported. You don't have to opt into it. And also if there are whenever you create a new project, it will be enabled with the new architecture. In case if you don't know what the new architecture is, it is basically like turbo modules and fabric. So whenever you are integrating any kind of a native component, so if it is a business logic component, it has to follow the turbo module documentation, and if it is a native view component, it should follow the fabric documentation. So in case if you are not writing any native code, you will have to check if your third-party libraries, if you are using, they already support this or not. I know there is a like a backwards interop layer, but it's better to have those libraries which support new architecture. Otherwise sooner or later you will be into you will soon run into an issue, so it's better to have a check on that. Okay, so the new architecture is now enabled by default for all projects, starting with SDK 52. When you create a new project, you will see the new arc enabled set to true. Okay, projects that are upgrading from a previous SDK release can opt into the new architecture. It's not required and it will not be automatically enabled for existing projects in SDK 52. We recommend enabling it after upgrading successfully using the old architecture. In SDK 53, we will likely enable the new architecture by default and you will have to opt out. In future release in 2025, we may remove the ability to use the old architecture. Okay, so if you have an old like an app which is using SDK 51 or lower, I would highly recommend just upgrade to SDK 52 and enable the new architecture, because like they have said in 53 they are forcefully enabling new architecture and you have to opt out, and in 2025 they are completely removing the old architecture. So it's better you just update it to the new architecture. Expo Go for SDK 2052 and higher will only support the new architecture. All Expo SDK package support the new architecture, and any of the third-party libraries that we include in Expo Go are also supported. This should not impact your experience if you're using Expo Go. If it does, you can still opt out of the using the new architecture in your project by explicitly disabling it by setting to new arc enable to false in your app.json and creating a development build. Okay, so if you are using Expo Go and if you update it, you will have the new architecture, but you can opt it out as well if you want to. Testing your app with the new architecture, ensure you use latest version of all third-party libraries. This is an important command. Run npx expo doctor @latest in your SDK 52 project to find any library incompatibilities that may cause issues when migrating. Doctor will validate your dependencies against React Native directory and let you know if any libraries are known to be incompatible with the new architecture or if their compatibility status is unknown. In some cases, you will want to migrate to alternate libraries that are compatible with the new architecture. If a library doesn't support the new architecture yet, there is a good chance that is not actively maintained. So in case if you want to check if your third-party libraries are supporting the new architecture, you can just go to React Native directory and just enable this new architecture. You can search for any libraries and this should be enabled. This checkbox besides new architecture should be there. Read about the known issues to get an idea of what to expect. So there are some known issues. Can I still try the new architecture if some of the libraries I use aren't supported? You may be able to try the new architecture in your app even if some of the libraries you use aren't supported, but it will require temporarily removing those libraries, creating a new branch. This is very hectic. I would suggest only use those libraries which support the new architecture. Okay, known issues in Expo SDK libraries. As of SDK Expo location, background location is not yet supported. So if you are using background location, this could be a tricky one. Known issues in React Native. So if you want to know more issues related to React Native, okay, there are a lot of issues over here, 47 open issues. yeah, you can go through this if you are facing some kind of issues, but I don't think it is guaranteed that all of these issues are related to the new architecture. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think you can use this type. Oh, I think they are all new architecture. Okay, yeah, they are all new architecture, sorry. So the type is of new architecture. Yeah, you can check this out in case if you're facing some weird issues. Known issues in third party library. So instead of React Native community mast view, use React Native mast view. React Native community clipboard, use React Native clipboard. Then React Native fetch blob, use React Native blob util. And React Native FS, use expo file system or a fork of React Native FS. React Native location service, use expo location. React Native date picker, use React Native date dash picker or React Native community date picker. This is so weird, like this is so confusing. I wish there was a better way of it, but yeah, most of these libraries are maintained by a single developer, so we can't really blame them as well, given that there is so much things changing. My build failed after enable. This isn't entirely surprising. Not all libraries are compatible yet, and in some cases compatibility was only recently added, so you will want to ensure you update your libraries to their latest version. Read the logs to determine which library is incompatible. Also run Expo Doctor latest to check your dependencies. When you are using the latest version of a library and it is not compatible, report any issues you encounter to the respective GitHub repo. Create a minimal reproducible example. Okay, this is fine, but what if I'm facing some issue if I don't have any third-party libraries, and if I'm writing some native code? That could be also a well-known case. Yeah, in that case I think you will just have to raise an issue inside a React Native repo. Anyways, learn more about enabling the new architecture in your app. Yeah, I don't think we have to enable this from Expo SDK 52. If you are lower version, then you will have to find use this migration guide. But like they told, if you are starting with SDK 52, you will see the new arc enable is set to true inside your app.json. iOS deployment target has been updated from 13.4 to 15.1, and min SDK of Android is updated from 23 to 24, and compile SDK 34 to 35. Stable release of new Expo video library. I think they have released this new library. We released the beta for Expo SDK in Expo video in SDK 51 and received a lot of great feedback. We spent the last SDK cycle incorporating the feedback and making other improvements to the library, and now we are ready to call it stable. We recommend migrating it to it from Expo AV now. It is more reliable, easy to use, more performant, more powerful than the video component from Expo AV. We have also added a utility to Expo video for generating video thumbnails, which may replace Expo video thumbnails in the future. Okay, so keep an eye out, like if you're using Expo video thumbnails, better to start using Expo video. Also, if you're using Expo AV, better to migrate to Expo video as well. So here I think they are supporting even for lock screen. Your video will continue to play, and also picture in picture. Beta release for new Expo audio library, similar to our rewrites over other libraries like Expo video and Expo camera. We are focused on providing a modern, stable and easy to use API that works great for a vast majority of apps. It may not handle certain niche use cases that require more control, since this often requires trading of stability and ease of use. Even in common cases, the Expo audio library is now in beta, and we are excited to get your feedback. We think it's easier than ever now to add audio to your apps. Okay, so in case if you are want to try out this Expo audio, it is still in beta, so I'll just wait. Then another beta release of Expo file system. Next, we rebuild the Expo file system library with a new API designed for ease of use and developer experience based on Expo model. This enables synchronous read-write operation using shared objects to represent files and directories. An advanced feature like stateful file handles the Expo file system. Next library is now fully in beta, fully backwards compatible if you decide to partially adopt it, with plenty more of improvements and integration planned. Learn more about Expo file system next. Okay, many improvements to Expo camera after promoting it out of the Expo camera. Next, namespace in SDK 51, we have followed up with a bunch of fixes and improvements based on feedback from the community. It's now more robust, for a wide range of use cases. We have also switched over to using Swift concurrency, which improves the camera configuration setup reliability compared to using dispatch queues. Refer to the Expo camera changelog for more information. Like, I think this is very interesting. I am hoping they are using Swift 6 for this, for using Swift concurrency. I know even Swift 5.9 and 5.10 had that, but Swift 6 really goes into the concurrency mode. So yeah, previously we used to use dispatch queues in Swift. So I am hoping they are using Swift 6, but yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. New Expo Live photo library. This library is currently iOS only. It allows you to playback iOS live photos. We have also added support for Expo Image Picker for picking live photos from the photo library. Improvements in affordance for edge-to-edge layouts on Android. We worked with Zone Tech to help ship React Native edge-to-edge, a library that effortlessly enables edge-to-edge display in React Native, allowing your Android app content to flow seamlessly beneath the system's bar. So it's basically like the status bar which you see. We want our app content to be occupying that as well, then you can use that. And I think below one is called navigation bar, where you see the back button. In some of the newer Android version, the back button is also removed. So yeah, be careful with that. Expo Image v2 introduces a powerful new API for loading images. The use image hook lets you preload the image into memory, providing its size and metadata before the image is rendered. The result of this hook is a shared reference to a native image instance drawable on Android UI image on iOS that can be passed as a source to render the image immediately without any additional network request and IO operation. We have also added on display event that is called once the image is displayed on the screen. So here is an example. In case if you want, you can use it. Expo Image Manipulator now offers a new object-oriented contextual API that is more performant, more flexible, and provides better developer experience. Images written from this API can be efficiently passed as source to the image component from Expo Image version 2. See a usage example. Like, I didn't know this library existed, but yeah, good to know that we have an image manipulator library as well. New Expo SQLite KV Store API provides convenient key value storage built on top of Expo SQLite. It implements the same API as React Native async storage, and it is drop-in replacement for it, but it also has synchronous APIs. For example, you can get item sync instead of get item to make it synchronous. Expo SQLite now supports SQL Cipher. You can enable it with Expo SQLite config plugin. While building support for this, we have also resolved an issue that would occasionally make Expo updates incompatible with other libraries that use SQLite. I don't know what this SQL Cipher is. Expo SQLite now supports saving SQLite database to shared containers on iOS and any other available directory. This allows an app extension to share a database with the main application or across other app extensions. Yeah, I think this is really interesting because just recently I have made couple of videos about widgets, and I was using user defaults for it, like the native user defaults. I was not using a third-party library. So I think Expo SQLite could really be a game changer in that perspective. So typically what happens is that, so suppose if I take the example of user defaults, if I'm using user defaults from my app, I have to provide a suite name to user defaults to make it accessible. Same user default accessible from widget code as well. If you use user defaults.standard, it won't be accessible. So I think a single database is really a good thing for Expo SQLite. Then Expo Dev Tool plugin now support binary payloads such as uint8 array. This was built in to support advanced use cases for an upcoming state management library, which we will talk about in our upcoming launch party starting November 18th. Okay. Expo notification improvements. Over the HDK 51 cycle, we have rolled out many bug fixes and improvements to the library, including but not limited to better support for FCM version 1. In HDK 52, we are also improving support for background tasks, which can now run even when the app is terminated. You can expect a lot of improvements to Expo notification as we continue investing in it. I'm not really sure if this is a good idea to do background tasks with help of Expo notifications. Typically, what Android suggests is that use work manager, and I think iOS has something similar called background task or something like that. I have never seen Android or iOS recommending to do background work with push notifications, but yeah, maybe it works, or maybe I have a limited knowledge on that. Support for iOS 18 tinted icons. With the introduction of the controversial iOS 18 tinted icon, it is now possible to provide a version of your icon that works well when tinted by iOS, rather than letting iOS attempt to tint your standard icon. Thanks to this guy Phobos 531 for the excellent pull request. Learn how to configure a tinted icon in your app config. Fixed an issue with environment variables and embedded expo config. Expo constant now properly sources expo env to ensure your .env files are loaded when generating the embedded constants.expo config data. This was also backported to SDK 51. Thanks to ChromeQ for working with us to narrow down the issue. Okay, then the next one, calendar form sheet now launchable from Expo Calendar. Shout out to the guy at AppJSConf who asked me about this. Be sure to attend AppJS 2025 and tell Brent what you would like to see in the Expo SDK. Yeah, so Brent is the actual creator of Expo. Expo Fetch is a drop-in replacement Winter CG compliant fetch API. It supports download streaming, which is useful for integrating modern AI APIs that requires efficiently handling of data stream. I don't know what download streaming is. How different is it from basic download? I'm not really sure. Winter CG compliant, I think this is something related to web development, some kind of an organization, I guess, or some kind of a rules list. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Next is React Navigation v7 is now available. If you use Expo Router, the upgrade will be automatic and many of the changes will be handled for you, but not all. See Expo Router and notable breaking changes below for more information. If you use React Navigation directly, check out the announcement blog post to learn more and decide whether you would like to upgrade. You can continue using version 6 and for now if you prefer. So I think even React Navigation 7 has some breaking changes. Yeah, let's see. Static API. The new static API is an optional API that simplifies the configuration of navigators. Okay, preloading screen. So I think this is very important. Many navigators now support preloading screen prior to navigating to them. This can be useful to improve the perceived performance of the app by preloading the screen that the user is likely to navigate to next. Layout props. Navigator and screen now support layout props to augment the navigators with additional UI and behavior. Improved web integration. The built-in navigators now have better support such as rendering anchor text for more element. The link and use link props APIs have also been revamped to use the screen names instead of paths. Then search bar support in all navigator with header. All navigator with header now support a search bar in the header. You can customize the search bar using the header search bar option. New use logger dev tool to replace Flipper plugin. The use logger hook can show navigation action and state in the console for debugging. Sidebar support in bottom tab navigator. The bottom tab navigator now supports showing tabs on the side by specifying tab bar position option as left or right. Animation support in bottom tab navigator. The bottom tab navigator now supports animation when switching between tabs. You can customize the animation using the animation option. React Native drawer layout package. The drawer implementation used in React Native navigation drawer is now available as a standalone package with React Native drawer layout. Many other improvements and bug fixes. See our blog post for the release candidate for a more detailed highlights. I don't think there is any breaking changes as such for React navigation. Maybe you can read this blog post if you want to, but yeah, I think this is fine. More on this later, I guess. Okay. React Native Dev Tools replace the JavaScript debugger introduced in SDK 47. It is very similar, so you don't have to worry about learning a new tool. They were built on the Chrome Dev Tools and the Chrome Dev Tools protocol. Learn more about React Native Dev Tools. So in case if you are interested, you can check out this React Native Dev Tools. I think we have already gone through this. I don't know how many times they are going to change the debugging option. So I think previously it was the Chrome Dev Tools, then they introduced Flipper, then there was some other third-party libraries as well. Now they are introducing React Native Dev Tools. Hopefully this stays long and they don't deprecate it with something else. React Native 76 is a big release. We mentioned some of its feature here, but you can learn more about it in the React Native 76 release notes. I've already made a video about this. If you want, you can check it out. Big improvements to Expo splash screen. We have migrated to the splash screen API introduced in Android 12, which resolves some of the long-standing issues on Android 12 Plus and helps to prevent layout jumps when transitioning from splash screen. So I think this is the documentation from Android for configuring splash screen. It is now easier to add a simple fade transition to your splash screen. So yeah, you can use something like this. Dark mode splash screen are now officially supported through the Expo splash screen config plugin. This was also possible by modifying your native projects either directly or with a config plugin, but it wasn't officially supported by the Expo splash screen library until now. This closes a popular feature request. It pairs well with the newly introduced iOS 18 dark and tinted icons. Okay, so dark mode for splash screen is supported. All right. Intend to deprecate the splash field in favor of the config plugin. Developers using the continuous native generation should migrate away from the splash field in app.json and instead use the Expo splash screen plugin. The splash key will be deprecated in favor of the config plugin in future release. For now, Expo splash screen will attempt to map your splash config to the equivalent configuration for the config plugin automatically. For now, you don't need to make any changes to your existing splash configuration on iOS. However, on Android, you will need to migrate away from using a full screen splash image if you are currently using one. Instead, use a smaller image such as an app icon. I haven't really tried this continuous native generation as this is something related to Expo product, so can't really comment much on that. Known limitation of splash screen implementation. Properties from the config plugin do not apply to the splash screen like view that you see when your app is launching in Expo Go or development builds, and so testing changes to configuration will be a bit more difficult. You need to rebuild the app to see the changes. We'll look into improving this in the future. Debug builds on Android 13 Plus do behave correctly with prevent audio hide async. The result of this is that you will see a black screen between your splash screen and app UI. This does not impact release build. It appears to be an issue in Android itself. AOSP, okay. A workaround that other library authors use is to re-implement the splash screen UI in their own native view and present that immediately. We have decided not to do that for now due to additional maintenance cost, and because it does not impact production app, we may reconsider this in the future. Now DOM components, I know Expo has already released a YouTube video about this. I personally don't like Expo making React Native work on the web as well. Instead, they should concentrate on React Native for desktop. Like web developers are never going to use Expo for making web projects. I know some of you might be thinking, okay, I don't have a web developer, I will just use Expo React Native and make my app work on web. The web is completely different platform. I think, yeah, even iOS and Android are different platform, but the amount of work that has been done to bring iOS and Android close to parity on Expo is lot, and most of it has been done by Meta, the React Native authors. They are not interested in bringing React Native to the web. So I personally don't like this, but anyway, we'll go through it. Even I don't know much about it, so maybe in future I might change my mind. But yeah, currently I'm not a big fan of Expo for web. DOM components make it easier than ever to incrementally migrate from web to native. They also provide a useful escape hatch that makes it easier to integrate any web library into your native app, even if it's just for a single view. To use DOM components, create a React DOM component file using div span even marquee if you want, and then add the use DOM directive to the top of the file. You will now be able to import the DOM component from React Native component. The DOM component will be rendered inside a web view, but you can mostly use it like a normal component via props with a slightly different pattern required for non-serializable props in particular function. You can now use any web library that you like within your DOM components. Thor use DOM components for custom protomap tiles. Raphael used DOM components to quickly add a spherical photo viewer, and of course even Bacon has shared a lot of example. In each case, you may want to migrate to a native equivalent eventually for the best experience, but DOM components are a great starting point. In particular, if you already have a web app that you want to migrate to native, or you already have a library that does what you want but it is not yet available for native Android or iOS. Yeah, if you are curious, you can use it. I'm not really a huge fan of it. Expo CLI, experimental universal tree shaking support, automatically remove unused ESM imports and exports from your app to improve OTA and web performance. Experimental support for React compiler, enable it with experiments React compiler true in your app config. Fast resolving so in case if you don't know, React compiler, it's basically like optimizing your code. So React does all the job for us, but I think it is still in beta or experimental stage. It will take a little bit of time to come to React Native. I think it will first come to React.js, then it will come to React Native. Faster resolving by default across all platforms, up to 15x faster resolution. This was merged into Metro, so it's now enabled for all React Native projects as of React Native 76. New flag to pass app to launch iOS run command. New flag to improve debugging of missing modules. Support for resolver.require cycle ignore patterns in Metro server bundlers. Expo use Metro workspace root is now enabled by default. The monorepo root is considered to contain all content that the workspace root adds something called server root besides the project root. This fixes a couple of things related to resolution to workspace in the monorepo, splitting the Metro cache for near identical apps in the same monorepo using the correct entry point resolution in various cases. Metro will now be automatically configured to support PNPM repos. I have never used it. CSS modules can now import other CSS modules, so you can put CSS modules in your CSS modules while you write CSS modules. Web assets are now use strings image resource for easier interop with web ecosystem. Added iOS.apple team ID field to app config, which sets the development team in all PBX projects when defined. This improves the affordance for multi-target iOS apps. Reduce size of Expo CLI by removing the dependency of React Native CLI. Expo projects uses Expo module auto linking to discover both Expo modules and modules built with React Native module APIs such as Turbo module. You can opt it into React Native community CLI auto linking by setting the environment variable. Expo use community auto linking equal to 1 and running pod install again. Eager builds with Android and iOS run command with Expo run eager. Expo CLI will bundle your app with Metro before compiling it. This is helpful when you are creating a release build and want to ensure that your JavaScript bundle correctly before proceeding to the relatively more time consuming native build step. Expo module API better support for sharing shared ref between packages. During conversion process, the inner reference type is now validated to ensure conversion is possible. Additionally, developers can check the type of shared ref in the JavaScript. Enhance support for shared reference, introducing new memory pressure handling for effective garbage collection of native objects with significant data. CM time iOS and duration Android are now supported as convertible types, making it easier to handle time-based media in native modules. Added customize root view to Expo app delegate subscriber protocol. This enables developer to customize the root view in their application through app delegate subscribers, providing more control over the app's initial layout and setup. Added on user leaves activity event to Android lifecycle listeners. This is triggered when the user leaves the app, example pressing the home button. New events API use event and use event listener provides simpler event management and reduce the need for you to write boilerplate event code yourself in each module. Migrated event emitter to C++ implementation. The new event emitter in C++ replaces the legacy JS version. This migration paves the way for potential improvements in performance and reliability in event handling with Expo modules. Extended Expo module config to simplify wrapping third-party ARs. Using Android Gradle AR projects in your Expo module config to wrap third-party APIs exposed a new way to define type-safe web modules with events register web module. Early preview of the server components and server action. As demonstrated at React Conf 2024, we have been working on support for React server components. We are incredibly excited about the potential this offers for new patterns in app development. This preview is meant to help libraries such as React Native to adopt React server component support and not intended for production yet. A dedicated blog post is coming soon. For now, you can learn more in the docs. Now again, I'm not really excited about React server components. I think React server components make sense on the web. I know you can do server-side rendering for mobile apps as well, but React server components were not really did not keep React Native in mind. It was intended for React.js, so I'm not really too excited on this. Now uses React navigation v7. This require some changes to your usage to the underlying React navigation APIs. New Expo Router UI APIs for tabs. The new headless tabs component provides Radix-like API for unstyled tab layout, which makes it easier to build this layout for web. New Expo Router link export, better alignment for upcoming package.json export support and server component support. Added legacy, subscribe for broader compatibility. This API was added to the native intent as a fallback for project using services like Branch, which supports React navigation via linking.subscribe, but do not have native support Expo Router yet. Added sitemap config plugin option to disable the built-in route. You can now disable the default sitemap route by passing the sitemap :false to the Expo Router config plugin. Then comes Expo Application Service or EAS. Next, EAS are cloud services for CI/CD with Expo and React Native apps. You don't need to use them to build apps with Expo or React Native, but we think they are incredibly useful. There are several updates to EAS that are relevant to Expo SDK 52. I have never used EAS, so I can't really comment on this. EAS build default worker image for iOS builds updated to macOS 14 and Xcode 16. New bundle JavaScript build step on EAS build similar to npx expo run eager mentioned in the Expo CLI section above. Starting with SDK 52, we call npx expo export embed eager in a new build step. The bundler cache will be reused when the bundling step is run at the end of the native build, so there is a minimal extra overhead in this small project. The bundle JavaScript step took 13 seconds compared to 5 minutes and 50 seconds for the run fast lane step on the recent iOS build. So if I were to push code within the JavaScript error, I would see that error for almost 6 minutes faster than before. You can disable these steps by setting the EAS build disable bundle JavaScript step 1 on your build. If you don't use EAS build, you can add the same functionality to a step in your CI/CD pipeline by calling npx expo export embed eager platform and provide the platform name. Improved dashboard for EAS updates. There is a lot of bookkeeping that EAS updates does for you between channels, branches, runtime versions and deployments, and now it's easier to navigate between them because we have added links to related entities on any page where it may be useful. We have also added stats on update groups pages to show number of installs and failed installs over the previous 7 days, and a dedicated section of the website for runtime version. You can expect to see more of this sort of data arriving on the dashboard in the future. Deprecations, push notification, remote notification will no longer be supported in Expo Go for SDK. For Android in SDK 53, in SDK 52 you will be warned when using push notification related feature from Expo notification in Expo Go. The reason for this change is we want to make a transition from Expo Go to development build smoother, make push notification and their setup more transparent. Push notification are deeply integrated with the native app which they are delivered to. Expo Go made some necessary integration steps in order to support push notification, but the integration was somewhat opaque and would become invalid once user transition from Expo Go to development build. With this change, we instead ask developer to create a development build what they would like to use when they would like to use push notification and configure them right away. Learn how to use push notification. So yeah, if you are using Expo Go, switch to development build if you want Expo notification. I personally don't like Expo Go. I mean, it's fine for simple projects, but I don't think anyone would create that simple of a project. I mean, in some cases it makes sense if you are only using the app but if you are deploying it to Play Store, and if you are at least expecting 1,000 people to use your app, then I don't think Expo Go would make sense, because in the future you would be tempted to add more and more features, right? Google Maps will no longer be supported in Expo Go for Android in SDK 53. In SDK 52, you will be banned when using React Native Maps in Expo Go for Android. On iOS, Expo Go only supports Apple Maps. You can use Google Maps in development builds, similar to the remote notification change. This ensures that the setup of Google Map is transparent and it is clear to developers that they will need to configure it before they are able to use the API in production. CR SQLite support in Expo SQLite has been deprecated. This was a fun experiment for us, but CR SQLite library is not currently under active development, so we have decided to remove it for now. Expo AV video API is deprecated. Use Expo video instead. Okay. Notable breaking changes. I'll quickly go through this. Expo Go now uses the new architecture for all apps. Expo Go for Android no longer supports pedometer. Expo Camera Legacy has been removed. Same for Expo SQLite Legacy. Expo Barcode Scanner has been removed. The barcode scanning functionality. Okay, I think they have integrated that within the Expo Camera itself. I wish they had kept it separate, but anyways. Unused privacy feed from app.json has been removed. Create React Native app is no longer supported. Yeah, if you are if you are using create React Native app, then you should use the React Native community CLI if you are not interested in Expo. Then Expo notification trigger type change, Expo router type changes, Expo router. I don't really like Expo router. Just use React navigation. I think that's make more sense to me. When using the new architecture, React state set function will no longer execute synchronously due to automatic batching. Okay, full screen splash images are no longer supported on Android. Known issues. Developer preview of React server components. Yeah, this is fine. When viewing the source tab in React Native DevTools, you may see a warning that says the script is on the debuggers ignore list and source map won't be loaded correctly. If you see this, press the remove from ignore list and reload your app. You will be able to explore your app source and set breakpoints and so on as expected now. Border width and color are not applied to the image component from Expo image. We are working on a fix. So yeah, in case if you want to update, you can just run this particular command and upgrade all your dependencies to match the Expo SDK 52. Check for any possible issues using this Expo Doctor command, and yeah, make sure to upgrade Expo. Oh yeah, you obviously need to upgrade Xcode, and make sure also you use latest version of Android Studio as well. I think these are grateful to all these people who have contributed for this particular release. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you. Bye.